Welcome everybody, Vaughan here. Hope you got your coffee. It's going to be an awesome one today. I want to welcome you. Thank you for tuning in, my most amazing students. That's right, I said it. I got the best students in the world. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you're having an amazing start to the year. And if you're watching this in the replay months from now, I hope your month is awesome wherever you are. Okay, so today we've got a lot to cover, which will be excellent. And it's more of a ballroom focus today, which is great. So remember, if you do any other styles like Latin, of course, if you're a Latin dancer, so if you do any of the five dances, Samba, Rumba, Cha-Cha, Jive, Paso Doble, or if you are dabbling in any of the more difficult dances within the ballroom realm, like Viennese waltz, for example, or some of the high level steps in tango or quick step, feel free to add those as well. Also, if you do any new Vogue, feel free to add that in. So I am very, very grateful that you are here, okay? It's been a few years now we've been running this, and it's not easy to keep moving, like, and to keep going and to keep the motivation. So if you have been like I have, sometimes feeling like, oh my God, there's so much to get through, there's so much to do as a dancer, right, in your own personal life, and you're still here, fist pump. Fuck yeah, that's amazing, because that is truly a difficult thing to do, to be resilient, all right? And it's lacking a lot. People are pretty soft these days. They give up very easily if things don't work out. And dancing, you have to remember, is not a sport, okay? It's an art form. And I grapple with this because I'm a competitor myself. But what you've got to understand is that when you're pursuing something like an art and you're trying to create excellence for yourself, there really isn't an end point. And a lot of people don't like hearing that because we're sort of conditioned in society to have an end point, to graduate, to finish, and then you're done. The thing is about graduation is it sort of introduces you to the next level. And that's a nice way to approach art. And even if you don't want to look at levels, there's always a better way to do things, right? To be more creative, to be more expressive, to show, to feel your dancing in a much better way, okay? And that's what this is all about. So please keep that in mind as we go through technique. Technique, which is really the foundation of everything I do, it's really my specialty, it's where I shine the most, is only a gateway to freedom, right, of movement, and to freedom of accessing the music at a better level, at a more connected level, to feel more emotions when you move, rather than get caught up on being off balance, tripping on your partner, kicking your partner in the legs, right, hitting them in the face by accident. All these things happen, but they take you out of the moment, right? So just keep that in mind as you're pursuing technique and trying to use it. It's not to get caught up on that, okay? The only time you really need to be very focused on technique in the sense of, the nitty gritty. If you look at a technique book and you look at all the bits and pieces, the chart headings, for example. So if you look at, like, um, let's say here, for example, take anything in a technique book, you see all the steps, foot positions, alignment, amount of turn, footwork, CBM, all this stuff. That's for one step for the man and then the lady. And you can imagine that across all the steps in Latin, Ballroom, and New Vogue, and you start to get information overload. So just keep in mind that the only time you need to know every piece of that and how it all fits together is if you're becoming a teacher, okay, and you're doing a professional examination or an adjudicator. Outside of that, it can be too much information for, say, a social dancer, even a metal dancer. Hence why with Dance at Home, the whole point of that is to get footwork, right? It's to get your understanding of what I think is important through my own experience, teaching over many years, seeing what works and what doesn't. And it's real easy to confuse things, okay? So go back to basics, go back to that program, start dipping back into it when you get confused, and then of course leave a question here for me. Now we're going to get into the program, so feel free to leave questions as we're going through this as well. And where's my camera? That's my back. That's my back. Anyway, I might as well stand here. I'm gonna stand here now. All right. So Dave, what do you say? Is there a rule about which foot for the man is the lead foot? I was always taught that it's the left foot. All right. But I see some ballroom competitions that use the right, and I always think of two measure groups with the preferred sequence: left, right, left, right, left, right. I know many figures would not conform to that sequence, but is there no rule to follow? Okay, listen, don't overcomplicate it, all right? So essentially, in the normalist way, there is no real rule. So when I think of a rule and then there's exceptions to the rule, it would mean that every single person would always start the dance the exact same way. Like in New Vogue dancing, The rule is there's 4-bar introduction, and then you go on the, bar 1 across all the dancers, and everybody starts with the exact same foot every time. So there's no changes to that, okay? In waltz, it's unusual, so there's an unwritten rule in the sense that you don't really start with a reverse figure in the waltz typically, okay? So you don't normally start off by doing a double reverse spin or a full reverse and slip pivot. You generally start by dancing into a corner or along the side of the room, diagonal to wall with like a natural turn, okay? And a natural turn is danced on the right foot. Okay, so that's generally the nicest way to begin a waltz routine. And of course, if you add a preparation step, that's on the left foot, yeah? But instead of worrying too much, is there a rule hard and fast? Not really. Just begin with say a natural figure. That's a nice way to move into the routine. But again, you can change into a reverse figure straight away after that if you like, okay? If we look at this next little bit. Now this one's a good one. It's a fairly big question. I will need a coffee. I'm gonna need a coffee for this one because this is a great step. Does anyone here dance tango? There's a step called the Spanish drag, which is fantastic. I love this step. I hated it at first, not because of the actual step was difficult, because I couldn't do it. Okay, so just remember, if you can't do a step, it doesn't mean that if you don't like a step, it often means you can't do it. All right, that's the thing. And then once you can do it, you're like, oh, this is awesome. The Spanish drag is a fantastic step, unique to tango. We're going to cover it today for Kevin in the UK. Long-standing student, well done to you, sir. You've come a long way. If you've got a Spanish drag in your routine, either you've improved a lot or your teacher is crazy. No, I'm just messing with you, but you've probably done both. Okay, I think it's great though to have a step like that because it's a bit of fun. It's a bit Argentine tango-y. So let's go through it. Let me read the question first. Hi, Vaughan. Hope you and your family had a good Christmas. My question is regarding the tango. As part of the routine, we go from a Viennese cross, so 4-5-6 of a reverse turn, to a Spanish drag. Again, that's very advanced, but good. That's good. You're at least trying something different. I'm really struggling with the Spanish drag as I tend to lead the turn, the Spanish drag with my left arm instead of my hips. Any help would be appreciated. Well, I have the answer for you because I have made an in-depth study of this step over many years. And of course had to teach it to competitive couples and danced it myself in my routine. So, okay, first of all, what are you actually talking about with the Spanish drag? So it's a very effective shaping step, all right? So it's not progressive, it's not moving, it's shaping. It's all about the connection between man and lady in this particular figure. It's one of the unique steps where you'll end up looking at each other in the eyes directly, and then you'll come out into promenade, okay? So the step itself, right, it starts off going into like a lunge, I suppose. That's the way to think of it, okay? Then the body turns so the lady can look at you. You bring her up, you close, and you go into promenade position. So you might be familiar with that idea. So let's approach it in three ways. First of all, we'll talk about the feet, then we'll talk about the body, and then I'm going to give you just some basic tips on the shape, okay? So with the feet, first of all, and I might do this with foot cam because we love foot cam. Hope you like the new setup. I've got a new dedicated space for this and to make it a bit easier. So let's look at the feet first of all. So this is the Spanish drag in tango. Okay, now what you have to understand first of all is the line of dance. So let's pick a line of dance here. So my line of dance is going to be that way. So your feet, when you first do this step, are going to turn out a quarter of a turn between the feet. Okay, so that's the first thing to understand. In other words, I'm going to be pointing diagonal to wall on my left foot and pointing diagonal to wall against the line of dance on my right foot. Okay, so you can see if I dance it this way here, show my sexy ankles, what's going on. It's a little bit blurry, apologies for that. But you can see there, boom, there's my turnout of my left foot diagonal to wall, and my right foot is diagonal to wall against the line of dance, okay? That is important because you need to be able to flex that left knee very, very strongly, okay? Now, that's where our feet will be. Our body will be pointing towards the wall. So that's step one. Timing, don't worry about that right now. Now, the next part of this step is on count 2, you are slowly straightening your left leg as you close your right foot, okay? Now, as we do that, we then close the right foot to your left foot slightly back, and then we go into promenade position by putting the left foot on the inside edge of the ball of the foot, okay? So that's our feet. If we can just do that again together, okay? So we're going to the side, we're going to then drag, and then we're going to close slightly back, and then go into promenade position, Okay, did you all see that? Excellent. Now that's our feet. And again, with the timing, if I just come out here, with our timing, all right, we can vary the timing, which is up to the dancer and the choreography. Okay, now the body is the next part of this. This is where it's very, very important to understand this. So when I dance this particular step, we'll do the same feet, boom, okay? My feet are turned out. We know that we close. My body now is facing the wall on step one. On step two, this is the most important part. This is where your leg's starting to straighten. You're actually going to turn your body diagonal to wall, okay? So where your foot's pointing, your body turns there. Now, why do you do that? Because it brings the lady's face towards you. Then, as you're straightening, because your body's turned diagonal to wall, she looks at you and you're lifting her up. That's the drag, bum, there. Okay, as you close your right foot, your body goes towards the wall again, and then you go into promenade, diagonal to wall, okay, pointing diagonal to wall. So what's happening in essence, because there's 4 steps, right? So we've done the feet, we look at the body. The body goes like this, ready? Wall, diagonal to wall, back to the wall, and then point diagonal to wall. Okay, so if we do that together, we're going. So remember, basically where my wall is literally there, that's what I'm using as my reference. There's the wall, that's diagonal to wall, that's the wall. Okay, so we're going from here and we're going and slow, then turn there. See, diagonal to walls in that corner. Bring the lady up, close, and then diagonal to wall. So as you can imagine, you want to get a good grounding with the feet, and then the body can play its role. Now, in terms of the shaping, here's some tips. So now the headline, there's a head between the lady, you're actually forming like a V, okay? So when you move away, there's a V. The lady, when she's doing this, by the way, so she's going to be stepping on the right foot, okay? So she's going into that lunge, facing the center. And then when she turns, whoom, her body's going that way, there. Okay, so diag to center against the line of dance. But the point is that her head turns to the right. She makes eye contact with you. And a lot of ladies would like to, they can actually roll their shoulders as they come up. Okay, so if you do the Spanish drag, you're here, you're looking at her, up you go, close, and then out. If you look at the logo that I have, it's pretty much a Spanish drag, right? The lady's looking at the man. That's sort of the feeling, okay? Now, the thing is you want to lock eyes with the lady, okay? So on step 2, not necessarily count 2, but step 2, you're looking right at her and she's looking at you. And that's unusual. You don't really look at your partner in ballroom dancing, okay? The next sort of tip I'll give you is, of course, there's a bit of shape on that, is pressure. You need to maintain pressure through that right foot as it closes. So then you can go into promenade position with some strength, okay? So make sure there's pressure as you close your right foot towards your left foot. Do not let your feet come off the floor at any point there, okay? Now, just last little thing, timing varies on this step. So the actual movement itself is one thing, and then many dancers will change the timing. So normally it could be, for example, and slow, 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 and slow. But then some people might take more bars. They might go and slow, 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 and slow. Okay? So it just depends on the choreography. All right. Hope that answers your question. So from Diane, hello. Hi Vaughan, Foxtrot question. Can you run me through the differences between the 3-step and the feather step? They both start on the left foot, but they seem similar but different. And why would you choose one over the other? Okay, so first of all, thank you for the question. And the most important thing to point out here that's incorrect is that they do not both start on the left foot, okay? So the feather step, as I'll talk for the man then the lady. So the feather step starts on the right foot, okay, as the man. And then it's the 3-step normally, it depends on the technique book, but let's just say for today, starts on the left foot, okay? Now, why is this important? Okay, so if the lady's going into the feather step, she's going back on the left foot. Now, when the feather step happens, so before we go into any technical details or anything, the main thing is this. When you do a feather step, you are stepping outside your partner, okay, in CBMP. So that's what a feather step does. You turn and you step outside your partner and you create like a nice drifting motion. When you do a 3-step, The three-step is in between your partner's feet, and it's a different rhythm, a different movement, and speed as well. It also can curve. So that's two of the main differences. The three-step is a unique figure, so it sort of sits in its own little category in Foxtrot. Whereas a feather step, there's 8 feathers roughly, right? So you've got your feather step, your feather from promenade, your feather ending, feather finished, your curved feather, your back feather, your hover feather, and the 4 feathers. I'm pretty sure there's probably another feather floating around somewhere in there, okay? So the feathers, what is common between all the feathers? At some point, so if I do a curved feather, I'm going to end up stepping outside my partner in CBMP, okay? If I do a feather finish, I'm going to be stepping outside my partner in CBMP, okay? So that's the idea. And then I come back in line. Now, what often happens is you end up continuing, for example, out of that step into a 3-step. So it's very common to do a feather finish and a 3-step. This is very normal. If you're learning Foxtrot, it's basically guaranteed you're going to be doing a feather finish, if I do it nice and small. So we do a little feather finish, and then lower there, that becomes the beginning of my 3-step, and then into the 3-step I go. All right, and then off we go into a natural figure typically. So that you can see that they're very different steps, because in a 3-step, you would never want to go outside your partner. You would also want to use more of a side lead. So as a lady going backwards, okay, so she'd be going back on the right foot, so there. She'd be going back with the left side lead. All right, so just very slight to allow the man to come in line. Now, one of the main one of the similarities, though, I'll just point out to the ladies before we go to the next question, is that with both steps, okay, with your footwork, it's the same. You're always going to be going back. So if you do a feather step, keep in mind when you do a feather step as a lady, you're going to be going, where am I? There. So you're going to be going toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, right, in CBMP, and then toe, heel. So you won't feel that you rise through your feet. If you do a 3-step, okay, you're going to be going toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel. So again, you have not risen up through your feet, which is one of the bigger, I guarantee if I work with most of you, when you do Foxtrot, you're going to be making that mistake of going up through your feet. What do I mean? This is important to pay attention to. If anyone ever dances Foxtrot, have a check out of this, right? So when you go backwards, okay, if you watch my feet in here, so I'll just dance this way for the moment. Okay, so if you watch my feet, if I do a feather step, right, I'll be the lady actually, so we'll go left foot back, boom. So if I rise up on my toes like this, you see that? That's incorrect. What you want to do is pull the feet, pull the heels, pull the heels, pull the heels, right? So you're not actually rising. What you are doing though is you're going to put pressure through the balls of your feet, and you're going to rise up through the balls of your feet. Now that's hard to explain. I should say that's a difficult thing to explain through the camera, but just for more advanced ladies, when you create rise, which you should always rise towards the man, it's through pressure in your legs. So rising doesn't have to happen. So rising is, elevation of the body, right? When you go up and down, that can happen through your feet and your legs without going up through your toes. So in any case, work with that. Make sure that you understand there are differences between the two, and you can go into a little bit more advanced work on that in in Dance at Home. All right, Elizabeth, what's up with some Samba? Yes, we have recently started Samba, and I'm struggling with the tick. So there's a little expression in Latin dancing called body tick. Okay, boom, tick, boom, tick, boom, tick, boom. So that's a rhythmical expression, I suppose. Now, I understand the principle that this is winking of the belly. Okay, that's a new one for me. I my mind went to a dark place. However, we found it very difficult to integrate this with all the basics. Okay, so like Voltas, Botafogos, stationary samba walks and whisks. And I think perhaps that I sometimes am going the wrong direction. How do we practice to get this right? That's a great question. And okay, so in the early stages of samba, okay, we look at the idea of the bounce rhythm. This is what we're referring to. Now, there's about 8 rhythms in samba. So any step that's sort of 1 or 2, we create a bounce rhythm. Now, a way to count this, just do this with me at home, put our feet together, all right? And we compress the knees and then we straighten the knees, right? So we compress and straighten. Now, even if you think you know this, do this, right? So compress on and, go up on one. So and one, and two, and three, and four. So what's happening there? The knees are flexing and straightening on the one, and straightening on the two, and three. Now, then where is this bounce happening? In the ankles and the knees. Okay, so we're going down and up, down and up. So we go, ready? And one, and two, and three, and four. Okay? What happens along with that bounce, all right, is what? The pelvis. So the pelvis, this is what the winking part you're talking about is, the pelvis tucks underneath. So that's the contraction. So as you flex down on the lower part of the bounce, you tuck the pelvis underneath. That's probably where you feel the wink, right? Okay, as you straighten the knees, your pelvis should extend back a little bit, particularly if you go up on the balls of your feet. Okay, so what's going to happen now? We've just done the knees before. Now we're going to add the hips. So we're going to go tuck underneath there. So we go and one, and two, and three, and four. So you can feel that the pelvis is going under. Now be careful that you don't contract your chest, okay? So if we do it again, and one, and two, and three, and four. Again, so ready? And one, and two, and three, and four. Now, in terms of body tick, that is a big question, but what you can do to practice this a little bit more, grab a chair, all right, and sit in it. And then just, you can practice actually getting the pelvis to tuck underneath and then extend. So you can actually practice when you're in the office, right? Don't make eye contact with your fellow workers. They might get a little bit confused. So you can actually practice by putting your hands on your hips, feet together, and then just isolate your pelvis and just tuck it underneath a little bit, then roll it back. Tuck and then roll. Tuck and then roll. You can also practice using your chest, boom, chicka, boom, and do like a heartbeat. So you can go up and out, boom, 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 boom. So if you do it sideways, right, you got this action going, one, boom, 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 boom. Now, why is that important? Because if you want to add further rhythm in your body, you got the knees and legs bouncing, the hips working, and then your upper body can also get into it. Boom, 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 boom. And that's sort of where you practice you can get your shoulders, dum, chicka, dum, chicka, dum, chicka, dum, right? That's where it's a little bit more advanced if you start to add more upper body rhythm. But I would, like anything, you build up from the basics. So when you look at body tick, okay, so if you're doing a whisk, for example, you want, as you start, your hips to be working and expanding each time you bounce. So if there's a bounce, you're going under, then you're going out. So under and out, under and out. So, and then you add it into the bounce of the step. So as you flex, your hips go under. As you go up, your hips extend, right? So you're creating that rhythm all the time. Boom, 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 and then boom, okay? Boom, boom. So all the time, under and up. So now, if you hit that beat a little harder, boom, that's where you can create some tick. Boom, chicka boom, and boom, chicka boom, okay? But what's happening there is the basics being exemplified, okay? Now, that can be difficult depending on your age, but all of the basic movements, you're going to create a little hit, boom, chicka boom. When you look at, say, the beat value of a step, 3/4, quarter one is the beat value. So on that first one, 3/4, the quarter part, which is when you bounce up, the straightening of the legs, that quarter beat is fast, right? So that's where the tick is shown, and then you would relax. So it'd be like 3/4, quarter one, 3/4, quarter one, right? If you're doing a Botafogo, you'd get the body to tuck underneath, so you go under, right? So you tuck before you move. One, a two, and a three, a four, and five, a six, and seven, right? And so the bounce, now, one thing about bounce rhythm, so everyone understands, is it varies amongst the steps. So a Botafogo won't have the same amount of bounce as maybe a whisk. So they do change. A Volta may not bounce as much as a whisk either. So there is still a bounce, but it varies between the steps, just so you're aware, okay? So you're not trying to create this crazy up and down action. The other thing that can throw people off is the speed of the music. So if the Samba music is fast, normally around 51 bars a minute, something like that, you don't have as much time to create the bounce. And sometimes it's played faster. If it's slower, you have more time, right? So as a dancer, you need to be able to adjust and calibrate, but the rules don't really change in terms of the bounce rhythm. Keep in mind that with the other rhythms, there are in Samba, such as slow, quick, quick, there may not be any bounce at all, okay? So it might be a polka rhythm instead. So there's fundamentals to really grasp within the dance itself. So I encourage you to write out your routine, write out each step. So say you've got your basics, reverse basics, then you've got some whisks to left and right, then you've got some traveling voltas, for example. So write those out and then write the timing next to it and ask yourself, is that a bounce rhythm or is it not? And then you sort of take it from there, because not every step should bounce because it would look ridiculous. Okay. Wait, what's happened here? Hope you're all enjoying this. It's nice to be back. Let's get this next bit. Okay, so this is from Nancy, starting to work on arm styling in American Smooth. Do you have any tips or drills or hints on how to master this? I'm working on the waltz, Foxtrot, Tango, and Viennese waltz. So the reason I included this question is this is a really great one just for everyone in general. I was working with a student last night and her problem was, okay, here's the thing. Often dancers will ask a question that's surface level. I want my arms to look better. But then inside, their internal beliefs about themselves is I'm not a very good dancer. And then their body feeds back to them. This sort of feedback system in our nervous system feeds back that they're not a good dancer because they feel uncoordinated. Now, what do I mean by that? I want you to claw your hands for a second, like that, okay? Now, that doesn't feel very good, right? You literally, the nerves in your hands tell you that doesn't feel very good. Now, as you go to move hands like in that position, not only doesn't look good, but doesn't feel good. So try this right now, wherever you are, okay? Notice the feeling when you do this. It's horrible, isn't it? Now, shake it out. Try to now create a soft, flowing movement with your hands that's unencumbered, okay? Now, she couldn't do this. So because I trained a long time, my hands could easily move, and her hands halfway through would sort of claw up, and she'd be like, oh, and I could see on her face, she was like, oh, that doesn't feel very good. And I said, right. So that's the thing about arms in dancing. You often will think that you're a bad dancer because it doesn't feel good, right? So when you're moving, it's like, oh, that feels awkward. And all that's happened is that you haven't trained the final thing, which is your hands. Your hands are so important in dancing that people neglect them so much because they're thinking of feet and legs and bounce rhythms, right? But I was like, look, if you can get your hands to be in total relaxation and have the control of the tone of it and be able to coordinate them however you want, so you can move them freely and they're not going to lock up halfway. And she started to loosen it up, by the way, as we were talking about this. I said, you're going to start to notice that when you do an arm movement, it feels better. And all of a sudden, the feedback system in your body is more positive. You start to go, oh, that feels much nicer to move. I must be better now, right? It's a weird thing. So it also changes your beliefs. It's a bit of a abstract concept, but it makes sense, right? So if you can get your hands to coordinate like that, for example, as one basic thing, and you can create a gesture and change the feeling and the energy within it, all of a sudden your arms react differently. Do you understand? So again, just to feel what I'm talking about, if you can claw your hand, okay, keep it very tense and try to create a beautiful arm movement. Very hard to do, isn't it? So if you can create a relaxation in your fingers, okay, whoom, and you're shaping the hands with a gesture, your arms all of a sudden do what? They start to react differently because you're focusing on the hands. So for anyone doing Latin or American Smooth or New Vogue that you need to have, is a prerequisite that you focus on your hands being absolutely magnificent. So what will end up happening as a result of that is your expression and your musicality will actually improve. You'll also feel better about your dancing, which is a strange thing. Now, in the moment of improving, by the way, when you're actually trying to make your body do something different, what it's not used to, it doesn't feel very good. It's challenging, it hurts, it stretches you, your muscles spasm, Okay, so that's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying it feels good. Once you start to get the coordination, it literally starts to feel like a meditative state. It starts to feel very floaty, awesome. But it's also not just about softness. So one thing I also want to encourage you to understand, when you're looking at movement in general in your body, you never want tight wrists, okay? So if you have rigid digits, as it's called, or tight wrist, you're done. So and this is any dancing, okay? You cannot have a tight arm or a tight wrist. That's one of the telltale signs of someone. If you go to dance with them and you hold and they've got a very strong grip, it's like the dancing is not going to be very good. It's too tense. So what you do is imagine in your mind a scale of 10 to 100. All right, 100 being grip your hands as tight as possible. All right, and 10 being a step. So 0 would be dead. Okay, 1 would be asleep, all right? And anything from 2 to 10 is going to be just relaxed, where there's no energy in your arms, yeah? So we don't want to be there. So we want an energy. So if I was a 10 in my hands, if you just watch my hands, okay, that would be there, okay? So they're active, but they're not like asleep, yeah? So there's a little bit of energy in them. Now you can see already they're coming alive, okay? Boom. And then if I wanted to create, say, to 90, boom. You can see straight off the bat that there's way more energy in them, okay? So that sliding scale is where we dance. We're never fixed, ever. It is always dynamic between that range, and this is where I encourage you to experiment. Now, even in ballroom dancing, you best believe that your hands, though you never let go because you're always holding, the hands can actually change in the intensity of the hold and the back, right? So, because of course the man follows the lady's back when he leads her, okay? So you don't actually move her with your hand, you follow her back once she starts dancing, all right? Shock horror, ladies, you actually dance your body. The man does not push you into position, okay? So now, the point of that is that the hands have, if you have a stiff wrist, neither of you are going to be able to dance very well. So that's what you got to aim on. It sounds such like a small idea, but it's a very hard one to execute, okay? So for those who have the Latin feel or the American smooth um, sort of discipline to master, you have to focus a lot this month on getting your hands and your arms to have boom, tone, and then play around with like big movements, fast movements, right? Let them move around. I would say that one of the biggest things that I like to do, if I don't feel like, okay, to get prepared for a class, I don't start with a routine to get myself jazzed up. I'll start moving my fingers. See, like that. Okay? I'll start rolling my wrists. All of a sudden, my body is like starts to come alive a little bit, right? Then I might move my legs just in a strange fashion. You'll find by doing this, like, oh man, that gets you jazzed, you know, gets you, you can feel like you come alive a little bit, okay? So keep that in mind as you go forward. I know it was a fairly in-depth answer, but I want you to approach things from a different angle and see how it goes. See how your rumba feels, see how your cha-cha feels with just your hands telling the story of the dance. Okay, my people, let's get up on here again. Okay, well, I want to thank you for being here. It's been an awesome month. Great questions this month. Please keep sending them in. I keep encouraging you to go through Dance at Home. If you're not part of Ballroom Mastery Academy, or you are in that and you're looking to go to the next level, reach out to me because there's a lot that we can do. We've got a lot to cover this year. It's going to be awesome. I want to put new content out on YouTube as well to help you guys out. So let me know the sort of things that you would like to know about or learn about as well. And I will create content for you because you're my loyal students and you're awesome. And just keep in mind what I said at the very beginning of today's lesson, okay? You just keep going no matter what happens as well. This year's going to be always full of challenges. Know they're coming. Know that there's going to be unforeseen things. People might get sick. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be all sorts of tragedies, okay? Let's just focus on what we can control. All right. So every moment you get to either dance or every moment you get to go out and enjoy your life, love it. Okay. Because we never know if that's going to be our last one. And ain't that the truth, right? So let's do this together. Have a lot of fun. make new challenges for ourselves like I am. Let's try to overcome the obstacles that are in front of us, and then grow from them, okay? So I want to thank you for being here. Every month, submit your questions, okay? Get into that habit, get a second opinion on your lessons. If you think, that's a stupid question, it probably is, but send it to me anyway, and then I'll decide. Um, but keep using this resource, okay? I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson together, okay? So thank you very much.